This is Jarrod Horak, and this is my latest Kentucky Derby 2024 Contenders video, and I'm going to look back at the 4 points races that were run last weekend, Saturday, February 3rd. If you want to read my Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks reports, head on over to todaysracingdigest.com. On their front page at the top, you'll see a Kentucky Derby tab. Click on that tab. It will take you over to the Digest Derby page, and you can read all of my Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks articles. If you want to check out my all-new upgraded runawayhorse.com website, go on over to the runawayhorse.com, and you'll see more free picks. It's going to be an expanded website. I'm going to have more articles. I'm going to be covering more circuits, and you can purchase my full cards there from Santa Anita Park. I have Triple Crown and Breeders' Cup full cards coming later this year as well. And at the top, you're going to see a tab that says RPM Handicapping. And if you click there, it's going to take you over to my Handicapping Partners website. And if you're interested, if you want to purchase handicapping books, they have software. They have a huge selection of handicapping material to help you out and to win more money. So if you're interested in any of that, go click that RPM Handicapping tab at the runawayhorse.com right on my front page there. And now we'll go back and we're going to look back at those big races from last weekend. And we definitely saw some upsets in those races. Now, the Withers Stakes at Aqueduct, that was run on a wet track, and you saw a Pennsylvania-bred stakes winner, Uncle Heavy, defeat New York-bred stakes winner, El Grandeo. And then my top choice, Lightline, was a non-threatening third in that race. Now, for the horses that you won out of that race, most likely it's going to be Uncle Heavy. I thought he ran a decent race. He was a horse that I keyed underneath. So I had Lightline keyed on top there, and then I had other tickets where I keyed Uncle Heavy underneath. Unfortunately, he ran a little bit bigger than I thought he was going to, and he was able to get the job done there, and he won that race. That was a nice effort from Uncle Heavy. He was a decent price in there as well. He paid $20.60 to win. El Grandeo ran his usual solid race. He just shows up and tries hard for trainer Linda Rice. And then Lightline was just one pace in there. He just didn't kick it in. On paper, it looked like he had enough stamina and he would be able to kick it in. He just didn't. He just didn't quicken it all on the stretch, and he ended up just finishing an even third. The Robert Lewis Stakes at Santa Anita Park, we saw an impressive winner there, Nysos. And Nysos is trained by Bob Baffert. Now, for the third consecutive Kentucky Derby, Bob Baffert horses are ineligible to run. In other years, they switched to other barns, like the Tim Yakteen barn, to run in his name in the Derby. But this year, Baffert's horses did not leave his barn, so they are ineligible to run in the Derby, but they can run in the Preakness and Belmont. And we may have just seen the early Preakness favorite here, Nysos, dominated for the third time in as many races. So he's one that he has a lot of ability, and he's just been able to blow open his races and win nicely in all three. And his first two races were sprints, and then he stretched out to a mile, and he handled that just fine in the Robert Lewis Stakes, easily defeating his stablemate Wind Me Up by more than 7 lengths. Scatify was third in there. So Nysos is one that, like I said, he's not going to run in the Derby, but they're probably looking at the Preakness right now and then going back and seeing which races that they should run him in to get him ready for that race. So he's one to definitely keep an eye on. We don't know how much further he wants to go. He's going to be facing better horses, but he handles at least a mile very easily. And we'll see if he'll be able to handle longer distances, like a mile and an eighth. A race like the Santa Anita Derby could come up. Obviously, the Preakness at a mile and 3/16. We'll have to see how he does in the future, but Nysos has a bright future ahead of him, it looks like. The Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn Park, another one that was run on a wet track, and Mystik Dan dominated this one for trainer Kenny McPeak. Just Steel was second, and Liberal Arts, my top choice, ended up finishing third in that race. And Mystik Dan ran fine. He was able to rally from off the pace. It looked like the inside portion of the track at Oaklawn was the place to be on that wet track, and he was able to break this race open, getting a great inside run and winning very easily. Just Steel just did hold second over Liberal Arts. Now, the horse I won out of this race is not Mystik Dan. It's not Just Steel. It's Liberal Arts. I thought he ran a quality race his first start of the year. He was able to rally nicely and just missed second, and then galloping out, he galloped out in front of everybody. So he galloped out strongly, and I think that Liberal Arts in his next start could be worth a play. Mystik Dan might be worth playing against next time. But since he was so impressive here, they're going to hammer him probably in the wagering in his next start. And then the Holy Bull Stakes, a very disappointing effort from your 2-year-old champion, Fierceness. On paper, it looked like he was going to dominate this race, and Hades from the inside post figured to show speed. He was a Florida bred stretching out in distance, and he did show speed from the rail, but the pace was slow in here, and Fierceness did not have a good start. And then he was able to move up and take the lead, but he couldn't hold it. And then Hades came back, and he was able to get back in front and kick clear and hold off Domestic Product and win nicely. And then Fierceness faded to third. Now, Fierceness is one, you have to give him another chance, but now I've dropped him on my list. From he was my top ranked Kentucky Derby contender. He's now dropped to number 4. Nash was my original top ranked contender, and then he lost his last 2 starts hitting the board in points races. So then I elevated Fierceness to my top ranked contender, and then he ended up disappointing in his 3-year-old debut. For Fierceness, if you look at him, he's run 4 times. He was outstanding in his debut. He was able to get all over the pace and just dominate that race. Second time out in the Grade 1 Champagne, he had a troubled start as my top choice, and he never really ran his race. And then in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, he stretched out in distance, and he was able to get up there all over the pace and just dominate that race. And then this race in the Holy Bull, again, not a great start for him, and then he wasn't able to overcome that, and he finished third. So in 4 starts, he has yet to run back-to-back good races, and the 2 races that everything went perfectly, he dominated, and the 2 races that he had any kind of trouble, he disappointed in both. That's not the kind of horse you probably want for the Kentucky Derby. In a 20-horse field in the Derby, you got to figure everything's not going to go perfectly. So even if he was able to run in his next race and dominate that, that doesn't mean that he's going to do the same thing in the Derby. We've yet to see him run 2 big races back-to-back. But he's one that obviously has a lot of raw ability, and if he is able to get up there on the pace and everything goes his way, he can be a dominating force. But that doesn't always happen. And in a race like the Kentucky Derby, you definitely cannot expect that to happen. So that's my look back at those 4 races and the horses to really watch in those races. The horse I really want to watch from last weekend is Liberal Arts. I thought he ran a quality race, and I would be willing to give him another chance in his next Kentucky Derby points race start. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you like this horse racing content. And I'm going to be doing some, anytime they run points races on the road to the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks, I'll cover those on my YouTube channel. I have the Sam F. Davis Stakes as my big race this week on the road to the Derby. So check that out on my YouTube channel. Go over to the runawayhorse.com, my personal website, or todaysracingdigest.com to read my Kentucky Derby reports. And that'll wrap up this video. Until I see you next time, good luck at the races.